Okay, issue 3 of this potpourri. Let's talk about some issues that panelists want to discuss for our third issue. Clarence, why don't you start it off?
Well, I have Ahmaud Arbery on my mind, the Arbery, the black man who was killed in Georgia while jogging. And this case is just one that shows again the power of video in drawing attention to these questionable he said cases. This is like over 2 months had passed without an investigation, even though the white man and his brother had said that what had happened, and yet there was no charges leveled. And at this moment, there still aren't any charges, but we do have a lot of protests that are spreading around the country now behind this whole episode, because we now have had video on national TV that shows basically what happened, and shows that the white man, who a former police officer, did this because of the suspicion that this black man had to have done something wrong, even though he didn't see anything of that sort.
I mean, I've been catching up with this story, and it started with I think a woman calling, saying this man has been running through the neighborhood, and it's a pattern. It's the same time every night. He's jogging, okay? And then you see the white van actually waiting for him to come by. Then you see gunshots. I mean, it looks like such an extraordinary setup, and then followed by a cover-up of the individuals who, last I checked, are still at large. They have not, and the local police officials initially said they didn't see that any crime had been committed, that they didn't do anything wrong, that they were like vigilantes protecting the neighborhood, which brings us back to the Trayvon Martin situation. So the fact that the video surfaced and the call surfaced, which is they don't have anything, this man is not running through people's houses, he's in the street. It's totally extraordinary. And if this family doesn't get justice for a young man, a man in his 40s, I think, being gunned down, then there truly is no justice in America.
Before I talk to this subject, let me talk about Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin was shot to death when he was sitting on top of a security guard who was armed and whom he was beating mixed martial arts style until he was senseless. And that case was taken to trial, and the individual, Zimmerman, I believe was his name, was exonerated in a court of law. Let me say, I have seen the video of what happened here, and it's not one man, it's 3 men. And one of them appears to be scuffling with the jogger who is unarmed, and the 2 others, one firing from the bed of this pickup truck, and another down the road about 15 yards, firing directly. I mean, it looks like an unauthorized and utterly unjustified killing. Now, I don't know what the circumstances are of the scuffling, but I do know this black man did not do anything to justify him being shot to death. And I do think I don't know that it's going to be a great controversy, because I'm not sure that anybody's going to defend what they did to that man.
Kelsey, isn't that the point here, that there seem to be quite a lot of conservatives who, unlike with other scenarios that Pat has presented here, are essentially, there's commonality in everyone saying this looks extremely concerning, and let's get to the bottom of this.
Absolutely. I don't know any more about this case than what you all just described, but I will say I'm very happy that a video is now public. I think these types of videos are so important, especially in today's culture, and the level of distrust between law enforcement and the public. The more videos, the more police cameras that we can release the footage to the public, the better. I am all for more transparency, and I do hope that some sort of justice is found in this particular case, because from what I know about it, yes, it's very alarming.
Kelsey, let me ask you a question here in terms of what you would like to talk about, if there are any issues that spark your curiosity or concern this week.
You know, we saw just a week ago Joe Biden attempt to address some pretty explosive allegations that were corroborated by multiple different sources. One of the women was a former neighbor of Tara Reade, the girl bringing forth allegations. She is actually a Joe Biden supporter and says that Tara Reade told her this story some years ago. And we saw the way Democrats, I guess, didn't respond to it, if we want to say. They ignored it until they could. And then finally, Joe Biden was forced to address it. I think, you know, of course, everybody's been pointing out the hypocrisy with how the left has dealt with this allegation compared to the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation process. And now we have a whole secondary layer of hypocrisy that we're seeing. Just this week, we saw the Department of Education release new regulations relating to Title IX and the way colleges are going to restore due process rights to men and women who are accused of sexual assault, while also importantly protecting the rights of survivors bringing forth their allegations. And just hours after those regulations were released, we heard Joe Biden say that he will reverse them, which is essentially telling the American public, due process for me, but not for thee.
Well,
Eleanor?
that's a pretty one-sided view of everything. And first, I'll say the Me Too is not ending. I don't know whether you wish it to end or don't. I can't really tell, but it's not going anywhere. The reports of the death of the Me Too movement are premature. Secondly, the policy that you're talking about it comes out of Betsy DeVos's education department, and there's a lot of opposition to it. And I think Joe Biden has maintained the position he's had all along, that he defends women who come forward. They should be taken seriously. And that doesn't change. That doesn't change because a woman has accused him. He has stepped forward and asked for her to basically, it would, if she wishes, to ask for the release of the claim against him that she apparently filed. There's no way to get that at this point. So,
All right, Pat, you respond and then give us your
Eleanor,
issue, Pat.
You know, I'm sorry, Eleanor, Joe Biden has a problem here. He had said women are to be believed almost preemptively, except in the case of Joe Biden, that now he wants, you know, he wants basically a trial in the court of public opinion. But what Biden has to do now, in my judgment, he's got to answer some questions. Why was this when was this woman hired? Why was she let go? What were the reasons why she was let go from a job in a plum job in the U.S. Senate office? How well he knew her. And I think these things he cannot continue doing from his basement. And the problem for Biden is that the news cycle, which was going his way, is no longer going his way, and he's going to have to emerge, and there are going to be a lot of people following up on this story.
In the conservative press, it's not going his way.
Eleanor, do you want to respond and then give us your issue?
Looks to me like the polls are going his way pretty darn well.
Thank you.
And Pat, did you call for all of that inquisition when the multiple women came out charging Donald Trump? Were you in the forefront of that movement, or when the Access Hollywood tape came out, did that bother you at all?
Let me tell you where I was.
Remember your sound bites from that era. Funny.
I'll tell you what they were, Eleanor. My sound bites were this. I tend to believe a lot of those women. I believe what they said was true. And I said, look, if we're going to have to give Trump a pass on these things in order to get the Democrats out of the White House and put the Republicans in and these policies in, I'm for Trump.
Okay.
So you make a better argument for Biden than I was about to make.
That's right.
I mean, that's the way the voters look at it too now. You know,
That's right.
Republicans were desperately trying to find something to pin on Biden. That's the best you could do. I mean, the man's reputation over how many years now is so well. He might as well stay in the basement while his enemy is destroying himself, right, Pat?
The problem is,
Kelsey.
There are two big differences here. The media investigated those claims against President Trump exhaustively, as they should have. I support that. And then the other big difference here is the way is the fact that Democrats set these standards, not conservatives. Conservatives have always supported due process. I personally, Eleanor, to answer your earlier question, I don't want the Me Too movement to die. Early on, I supported it. What I never supported was advocates of the Me Too movement trying to remove the basic rights for those who face allegations to defend themselves, their rights to due process. And that's what we saw under Brett Kavanaugh. And so what we're pointing out now with the hypocrisy are the standards that the left set under the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation process to believe all women when they say they were assaulted. We as a conservative, I like giving them the benefit of the doubt. I also support investigating it and giving the accused a right to defend themselves.
Well, Kelsey, did you read the Washington Post and the New York Times? They did exhaustive investigations. They filled 2 inner pages of the newspapers. They interviewed something like 40 people, and they basically left it up to the reader to make their judgment.
It was Business Insider who reported.
Excuse me, please. About a story that had changed significantly a number of times over the years, and then to make the same judgment that Pat Buchanan made when he decided to follow Trump. And I must say, Biden's career, he was 8 years as vice president. He was vetted for the vice presidency by the Obama team. Spent many years in the Senate. And, you know, I'm old enough that I remember the Senate back then. It wasn't that long ago, and you knew exactly which offices had the predators in them, and everyone on Capitol Hill knew who they were, and that was not Biden's office. So nothing else has emerged. So this looks like a one-off, and it's up to the voters to make their judgment.
Okay.
Frankly, I've never agreed with the faction of the Me Too movement that does not believe in due process, and I said so at the time of the Kavanaugh hearings, and I see they are now learning the hard way that it's a good idea to have due process. But I don't think it's a problem for Biden.